Here's something I find interesting. The doctors in which I've been seeing for my primary cares have been purposely trying to destroy my mental health. Now, I'll give an example of this. I lost the ability to walk after a seizure. So I needed a wheelchair, and I'm using two canes, and I'm sliding downstairs on my bum. I'm like this month after month, and my primary care gets at least 20 reports, gets a report from my manager, gets a report from me, and people on the bus are pulling out their cameras for the crawling man. So I asked my doctor to issue a wheelchair so that I can get on the bus and go get a CT scan done. She tells me she'll only issue a old man walker. I tell her that would be affecting my mental health. I said, if you can show me one other 31-year-old who uses an old man walker, I will use it. But most of the time, people take it away from you, think you're pretending, and they tell you your primary care would have ordered a wheelchair, not a walker. As well as people would try to hurt me thinking I'm faking. Because a guy who needs a wheelchair and gets hurt when he stands up should not be standing up with a walker, making himself worse. Whenever I try to stand up, the kidneys get worse, as well as there's no other 31-year-olds in America using a walker when they're needing a wheelchair. So nobody's going to believe that I'm really hurt, even though there's hundreds of witnesses seeing how much pain I'm in. There's pictures of blood filling up. I've had seizures with many witnesses. But the problem is, a lot of time, the friends I take care of, or I should say the people I take care of, like David, they just leave me to bleed out and never make a report with my doctor, and the doctors usually don't want to do anything. For instance, I had a seizure, so my right side of my face swelled up, I fractured some of my face, I ended up losing part of my brain and it swelled up. I couldn't talk right for about 2 months. After 2 days, somebody finally helped me get to the emergency room, but they couldn't talk because they're mentally retarded or mentally disabled, but I use retarded in the proper way because he really is. He has the intelligence of a 7-year-old, but he's 50. So I get there, and I tell the doctor the truth, but I sound funny, and the guy with me can't give him any information. So what does the doctor hear? He hears from the other guy that I fell and somebody licked me. I have to explain to the doctor that I had a seizure. I hit my head on the side of the table during the seizure. I took something like coffee the day before, and stimulants seem to affect me sometimes, but I have these anyways from cold. But it wasn't cold in my apartment, so I didn't have it from the cold this time. I had it from caffeine. So because of that, I also had to explain the licking thing. So I told him, yes, I had somebody there that wasn't there in the head and they licked my ear. Now, this was so weird that this doctor didn't want to deal with the seizure. He didn't want to deal with it. So he released me on the site, but I couldn't walk. I was bleeding all over myself. My head is swollen. My brain is swollen, and I look like Frankenstein because my right side of my face is swelled up to the point where I literally look like Frankenstein. So, at this point, all the nurses are calling the medical board because it looks like I might die in the front of the building. I have brain damage, I'm bleeding out, I have a concussion, I can't stay awake, the whole room is spinning, I can't use a phone, and my whole nervous system is fucked up. There's a very good chance I might die right in the front of that hospital, but the case is too weird for the doctor, so he's just releasing. But the nurses know there's a chance I might die, so they're calling the medical boards, and there's about 4 nurses, all very upset at this doctor for releasing me in this condition. Eventually, the nurses get me on a taxi after making out several medical board reports. After this, I also tried to get a CT scan, but my primary care decided they were going to mess with me. They didn't issue me a wheelchair. They refused to give me any walking devices like a wheelchair or canes. Instead, they only offered old man walkers, which would give my mental health a real fucked up. I mean, people would be messing with me with that. I have never seen a 31-year-old using an old man walker. They're always in a wheelchair if they need it. So that's what I need. I'm not going to be the only 31-year-old in America using a walker while everybody else in my condition is in a wheelchair. Just because my doctor wants to fuck with my head doesn't mean that I have to be mentally ill because doctors want to fuck with my head. I need a wheelchair. The doctor said no. That's simple. That's what I need, a wheelchair. The doctor's refusing. Now she says she's refusing to help me unless I get a CT scan done at Frisbee. So I crawl on the bus as people take pictures of me because I can't stand up. I'm in extreme pain, screaming as I try to get into my chair, going, ah! Like that. It sounds differently when it's real, but something like that. So then I get off the bus, but I fall to the ground as I get off. And then I have to get across 4 lanes of traffic on a crosswalk to get in the hospital. So I end up crawling on my hands and knees to get across the crosswalk. I get into the hospital, and I'm trying to stand up, but I keep on falling to the ground because of the pain. I get into the hospital, I get the CT scan done, I crawl back home across a different lane of traffic, and then they lose it. They say they can't find the CT scan that they ran. So after weeks of trying to get them to send it to my doctor, I have to do a second one at Frisbee. Same thing, same exact order. They lose that one as well. So then I get a CD in hand. I'm told if I get it in my hand, then I can drop it off in person. So I'm going to get the CD in hand, I'm going to pass it off to somebody else, and then they're going to bring it to the doctor. But because I asked for the CD in hand, and they're fucking with me on purpose, this time they send it correctly, just so they can bill me for the CD and sending it electronically. Even though this is the 3rd CT scan I got done. Even though this is the triple billing. They're triple billing me for the same test 3 times. And even that, they don't care about. On top of this, they decide that they're going to cancel appointments last minute and still bill me. I had 2 appointments since I've been going to the doctors up here, and one of them, my GI doctor, has gone on medical leave and played games, and I had another doctor who called me last minute, literally an hour before the appointment, to cancel, and then decided they were going to bill my insurance. The way this works is they schedule Joey and Zach. But really, they're both at 2 o'clock. Zach is scheduled at 2, Joey's at 2. They keep it on the books, but then when the 2 o'clock on Tuesday comes around, they call Zach and they cancel with Zach. They say, sorry, we need a cancel. But then they bill Zach's insurance and say he didn't show up. And then the next time Zach calls, 3 months later, a week in advance, to let them know he has to go to some court date to fuck the landlord or something, so he has to change the date. And then they'll tell the insurance I'm the one canceling and moving stuff. So every so often they'll just do a double bill. They'll just double bill the taxpayers. On top of this, they'll try to push medications. Meanwhile, epilepsy medication might really save my life, and giving me paperwork will save my life. That's what I need. But apparently, a piece of paper is too hard for them to give at any time, so I have to keep on getting injured. A wheelchair is too hard. A do not lift order comes out I'm excused from gym class. So they just keep on purposely making mistakes and billing the state.